This particular video on today will include the truth behind Christianity, the person who officiated Christianity, which is Constantine the Great. I will have information on why churches celebrate the Sabbath on Sunday opposed to Saturday. And so far as the Negroes is concerned, I will have included in this video, y'all being from the tribe of Judah. Black pastors' sermons have been suppressed since slavery, and they are still being suppressed to this day.
A reality that the history books do not record, but history does. Christianity was used because if I said, okay, you don't believe the way I believe, and Christianity is the best way to believe, so I'm going to take you, and it's going to be for your own good, honey. It's going to be for your own good. I'm going to take you, and I'm going to tear away everything about you, and just keep your hands and your feet, because they can help me getting off. But I'm going to do this for your own good, because I'm going to give you a God. Now, what does that God look like? The reality of it is when he came here, he didn't look like me. So what am I going to do about that? I'm going to make him look like me. So for hundreds of years, we've been telling you, and now you have to keep in mind that we took away any other God that you might have through force, through fear, through pain, through any means necessary. So now I'm going to give you a God, but I'm going to do that in a way that is going to further me. So I'm going to give you a God that looks like me, so that when you bow down to that God, you're bowing down to me. And because I wasn't hearing these things, because the Bible tells us what Jesus looked like when he walked here. The Bible tells us what he's going to look like when he comes back. We have taken that and changed it. Do you remember when Jesus went to Egypt? He hid in Egypt. The people in Egypt, honey, they're not white people. How could he hide there? See, so that we've done that. We've given your people a God that looks like me, so that you don't have any qualm about bowing down to me. See, because this is the image of God. I don't know of any sin that we've committed that's greater than that one. And we did it with the Bible in our hands when we were beating your ancestors for looking at us eye to eye. And we're quoting to them from this scripture. Even if we allowed them to have their own ministers, which there wasn't many of because we didn't allow them to read. But if we said, okay, you can have your church. This is my plantation. I'm going to do what I want with it. You can have your church. But then spies were sent. And those spies would stand outside the church, and that man would be beaten, perhaps killed, if he preached anything other than 3 sermons. And those 3 sermons were turn the other cheek, obey your master, and it's going to get better one of these days. God's going to take care of all of it. You're going to be in a happy, happy land. So put up with what you're putting up with now. And we made your people preach that to your people. And it's still being done. It's still being done. Those are the sermons that your people hear. Those sermons are what causes your people to comfort me when I do something that's wrong.
The answer may lie at the very top of the arch. Here, there is an inscription, and it states in Latin, Instinctu Divinitatis, which describes Constantine as divinely inspired. But if it's not Jesus who's inspiring him, which God is? When looking at what's depicted on his arch, what we find are pagan gods from the Roman pantheon, and none so prominently rendered as the sun god Apollo.
The light is amazing.
And it's so appropriate with the rising of the sun god right there to have it illuminated by the sun this way.
Before Constantine's alleged vision, he followed the official religion of the Roman Empire, the imperial cult, a pagan religion that worshipped Apollo above all else. Much like the pagan god Mithras, Apollo was the sun god that represented the light of creation. According to the imperial cult, Constantine, as emperor, was a superhuman avatar, the link between Apollo and the rest of humanity. And from the archaeology, it's clear that Constantine bought into this idea completely. He commissioned this 12-meter statue of himself. And not surprisingly, the statue came with an enormous head. Built into this statue's healthy hairline may be evidence that Constantine believed he was more than a mere representative of Apollo.
There are dowel holes that certainly were for some kind of insert, and it seems likely that it was for a rayed crown.
That's not Christian to me. To me, that's saying, I am God.
Right. There's absolutely no humility in any of Constantine's self-fashioning. I mean, he's very happy to have a 40-foot tall statue of himself looming over this space in the center of Rome. He allows cities in the north of Italy to erect cults to his family, to worship him as a god.
He's aloof, he's giant, and he's godlike.
Yes, he's superhuman. He is superhuman.
The image of Constantine with sun rays emanating from his head not only matches the earliest images of Apollo, it also matches the iconography of Mithras.
This is going to be another hard pill for some to swallow for those who are in Christianity, because you've been doing things by tradition. I dropped a video, first part of this week, talking about how Constantine the Great changed the Sabbath, which is on a Saturday, to Sunday. He only did this because he worships the sun god. Even though after he converted over to Christianity, he was still worshiping the sun god. The Bible speaks, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. That is in the 10 Commandments. Constantine the Great is the one who officiated Christianity as it is of today. So let that sink in. You go to church on Sunday in honor of the sun god. The Most High never changed the Sabbath. His Sabbath has always been on a Saturday. That's the 7th day of the week. And let this sink in. Yeshua, as y'all call him Jesus, was resurrected on the Sabbath, which is a Saturday. He was crucified on a Wednesday. Check history, research. Christianity was making everything align with the sun god. This was Constantine the Great's doing.
Why? Ask the bloody question. Why are they only teaching you the history of slavery as far back as the 16th and the 17th century? Why are they only going that far back? Because they don't want you to go farther back than that, because then you'll actually find out the truth. But from the 16th and 17th century, we'll teach you about slavery. You've got to go further back. And you've got to understand and question, why do they do this throughout the whole of America, in all the public schools? Why do they only go back as far as the 16th and the 17th century to talk about slavery? We've got to go further back than that. Because Islam designed infernal slavery. And then the Ashkenazi Khazars, those who say they are Jews and are not, are the ones that marketed it. And the regal Negro nomads, exiled from the kingdom of Judah, were the main recipients of it at the hands of the indigenous black Africans. Because you've got to understand, the regal class of the house of Judah came down from Israel, and they came into the land of the black Africans. And the black Africans resented the regal class of the house of Judah in their land, because they had laws, they had customs, they had civility. And they were a regal class of Negro that came down into Africa. And later on, it was the Ashkenazi, the Islamic slave traders as well, that then worked together with the indigenous black Africans to enslave the regal house of Judah. This is what we've got to understand, but you've got to go back before the 16th century to understand the roots of it. So we're going to see, as we dig into this, where this slavery came from, because it was really a system that was very, very well crafted. There was Islamic masters, and there were white Ashkenazi Khazar ship owners. There were the buyers and the sellers. And they're not going to fill you in on all of this, but really you've got a 4-tier system. Number one, you have the Negro nomads that were exiled from the kingdom of Judah. Number two, you had indigenous black African hunters that resented the regal Negro nomads that had come into their territory with their own customs, with their own laws that were different and would not assimilate into their tribal culture. They were their own tribe. They were the regal house of Judah. And number three, you had Islamic trappers that worked with the indigenous black Africans to trap the regal Negro house of Judah. And then you had them sell them to the Ashkenazi ship merchants, along with many Portuguese and British Ashkenazi. So, again, we've got the 4-tier system. Number one, we have the regal Negro nomadic class that are exiled from the kingdom of Judah. They are their own royal tribe in Africa. Then, number two, we have the native black African trackers. They're going to track them down. And number three, we have the Islamic trappers. Because between 650 of the Common Era and 1900 of the Common Era, 10 to 20 million people were enslaved by the Arab slave traders. Over 20 million enslaved Africans were delivered through the Trans-Sahara route to the Islamic world. Can you get your head around that? That's not even touching the Americas. Over 80 million more blacks died at the hands of Islam en route. And number four, we have Ashkenazi Khazar Jewish ship merchants. And of course, the Portuguese and the British Ashkenazi were the main buyers. Islam and the Ashkenazi, those that say that they are Jews and are not, were the main sellers. Does that make sense? You've got to dig into this further. We have the 2 tiers right there. We have the Islamic trappers, and then we have the Ashkenazi ship merchants. You see, the Romans, they were globalist slavers. They were globalists then and now. They just migrated to Gaul, Ashkenazi, the sellers, and Britain, the British, of course, the buyers. German Jewry and British Jewry, where have they gone to? Well, they've descended upon Wall Street, upon Hollywood and Washington, D.C., as we see it right now, just to fuel this cataclysmic final war of globalism, which is none other than renaming colonialism. And this is the world that you and I live in. And I'm so sick and tired of these talking heads when it comes to the election time, trying to enslave everybody and cause racial division to try and get the votes. When ultimately, if Israel would just wake up to who's enslaving us, regardless of our skin color, he says what? I am Yahweh your Elohim that delivered you from slavery. We all need to get out from underneath this slavery system, and we need to come together as Joseph's multicolored Melchizedek cloak. But we've got to help identify who are our Jewish brothers and where are our Jewish brothers as the whole house of Israel comes together. Because Islam and the Slavic regions, I mean, where do we get these names? Yugoslavia, of course. Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, these were all regions of bestial slavery that eventually arrived on the African continent. These were areas where Islam invented infernal slavery up in those Slavic regions that then eventually arrived on the African continent, and the black regal Negroes of Judah were the recipients of it. But not only black Judah, but Europe.
Christianity, the white man's religion, was not going to allow these black pastors to tell the children of Israel, the Negroes, they are from the tribe of Judah. They've been suppressing black pastors' sermons since the days of slavery. That is one of the reasons why that religious instructions for the Negroes book was written. There was instructions for the Negroes. Israel is mentioned 2,400 times in the Bible. There is a book specifically written to the children of Israel. That's the book of Hebrews. I encourage my brothers and sisters to read the word of Yah. Ask him for wisdom and knowledge to understand what you're reading and not what Christianity has brainwashed us with. Learn from the mistakes that our ancestors made and follow the instructions of the Most High. Those instructions are in the word of Yah.
I don't know if I ever told a story about the churches.
I don't think so.
Here in Atlanta, we wanted to buy a church out here, a building.
Oh, wow.
It cost $1 million. We said, we can't afford that because we grassroots.
Mm.
So the minister said, hey, no. We said, minister, how are you able to afford this $1 million building? He said, you go to the bank. I said, no. We went to the bank. All these bank, they say the churches have unreliable income because 1 week it may be good, next week it might be bad because it's based on donations.
Right.
He said, no. He said, Christians have a bank strictly for Christians.
Oh, wow.
So he gave us the address. Brothers go down there, and the clause is, in order to get the money funded for a church, millions of dollars, you have to teach what they want you to teach. They said to us, our church, our teachings must align with theirs. Jesus is white. December 25th.
Christmas, yeah.
The laws are done away with. I'm like, we don't teach that. You can't get no money from us then. And the churches have never revealed. That was on a sneak tip the minister told us. And we found out, whoa, there's so much ins and out with the churches, it will shock people.